As I say these lines, Robert Frost may turn in his grave. But the state of affairs in the country this week has pushed the miles to be covered too far, while sleep for many comes too easily and too soon. With politics unfolding as it is, even destiny can allow only a few trysts. The week was not only testing but embarrassing for me. The Congress-led UPA government had to eat humble pie served up by the judiciary. Lo, cow. Dear Congresswalas, when the judge says order, order, you don't have to, you know. The Supreme Court gave the grand old party lessons in socialist governance. Who would have thought it was possible? Its order cancelled all 122 telecom licenses allotted on or after 10th January 2008 to 11 companies during the tenure of the former telecom minister A. Raja. What struck me was the historic irony of how the apex court worded its judgment. Declaring spectrum as a natural resource, the Honourable Court went on to say, it is the solemn duty of the state to protect the national interest, and natural resources must always be used in the interests of the country and not private interests. Such socialist sermons to a Congress-led government, rephrasing Sahir, my heart laments. जिन्हें नाज था कांग्रेस के समाजवाद पर, वो कहाँ गए, वो कहाँ है, वो कहाँ है? Don't they remember 1955 after the session of Congress, in which the establishment of a socialist pattern of society as the objective of the party was adopted? Did not the 1955 resolution sound like this Supreme Court verdict of 2012? Remember how the resolution was worded? Sample this. Principal means of production are under social ownership and control and equitable distribution of the national wealth. Deja vu. But the greater irony is that for pushing land reforms, it was the Congress government that made the first and the fourth constitutional amendments in 1951 and 1955, countering a conservative judiciary which was obsessed with individuals' private property rights back then. And now, the judiciary is giving the government a crash course in socialist commitments. Samay bada balwan hai bhaiya. As if that wasn't enough, it seems Indian capitalism loves the name Raja. When we were pushing socialist programs, its bittersweet critic, Rajaji or C. Rajagopalacharya for the more formal, was the chief opponent as he favored free capitalist enterprise. Now, when capitalism is entrenched here, crony capitalism has produced another Raja. Rajaji, are you watching? Dekho. Dekho. If you thought the embarrassment for the executive was over, no, nahi, not yet. The judiciary had a more haunting tune to play for the government of India. Tunes played on the army chief's brass band as they pelted out the age-old super hit. Happy birthday to you, General V.K. Singh. Happy birthday to you. We had ensured back in the day that there never will be civilian-military confrontation. The lines were clearly drawn. 2 days before we attained independence on 13th August 1947, in a letter to the then Army Chief General Lockhart, the Prime Minister wrote, in any policy that is to be pursued in the army or otherwise, the views of the government of India and the policy they lay down must prevail. If any person is unable to lay down that policy, he has no place in the Indian Army or in the Indian structure of government. On another heartburn, my peacenik heart had a tough time dealing with the news of a defense deal. India accepted the flying and fighting French kiss, and France will now deliver fighters to India for a whopping $10 billion. Back in my days, when diplomats were sent to Western capitals, they were told to represent India through pacifist, peaceful and Shanti ideals of the Buddha, the Ashoka and the Nehru. Of course, some find it amusing that foot-in-the-mouth disease child Shashi Tharoor thinks that I ran a moral commentary on the affairs of the world. Beta speaking in a British-type confused accent isn't enough to be taken seriously as a statesman or indeed a leader. And that Joy Mukherjee or Rahul Roy type hair flick doesn't help either. Whatever today's leaders may think, these French war machines cannot take us to your trysts with civilization. Yes, I know you have that China debacle to silence me with, लेकिन ये तो हार के भी जीतने वाला देश है. ओलंपिक्स हो या जंग, और हार के भी जीतने वाले को. Oh, and speaking of Bazigar, he slapped someone last week as well. But we don't want any of that. We are a serious news show on News Laundry. More importantly, people in Jaipur and Kolkata are lamenting the death of Nehru's liberal space. Salman Rushdie had to excuse himself from the Jaipur Literary Festival. And Taslima Nasreen's book was made to miss its release schedule in the Kolkata Book Fair. The shrinking space for liberal expression is cause for concern. But what about the hypocrisy of born liberal busybodies? They are running their dissent shows from television studios and fuming through printed and digital words. It is quite safe to protest here. India never stops surprising me. I am yet to discover it.